thank you all for joining us today. My name is Scott Denton. I'm a part-time worker with retired part-time worker with solutions consultant with BusPlanner. And today we're going to be talking about, maybe this is like the 7th or 8th webinar we've done so far this year. And today we're going to be talking about student safety and how technology plays into that. Really glad to have Brian Joyner with me today. Brian is a transportation director in Union County Public Schools in North Carolina. Brian he came in from as a bus driver many years ago and worked his way up to a supervisory role in the operations side of the house, and stayed in that role for quite some time, and then moved over to a very large district in North Carolina, Charlotte-Mecklenburg Schools, and was one of their key players in operations over there. And then we had an opening for an assistant director in Union County, and Brian came back to Union County, which is just outside of Charlotte, and spent some of his time as an assistant director. And in the past year and a half, has been promoted to director. So, Brian, glad to have you, pal.
Yeah, thank you, man. It's great to be here.
Yeah. We're looking forward to the discussion. So, go to the next slide there, Farzan, and we'll kick this thing off. So, obviously, we're going to talk about safety challenges that we're all experiencing, and what type of safety measures may be in place. We'll try to wrap this thing and bring it all together, and then we'll do some question and answer at the end. So, with the next slide, we'll go ahead and get started on our discussion. So, Brian, we have, I guess, part of the safety challenges we have right now are a lack of real-time visibility for parents and the districts and the information they're seeing, from the transportation department. With technology having increased so much over the past, and it's really been a few years. It's not been, as many people know, it's not been all that long. But I'd say in the last 5 years in particular, we've seen a real improvement in the way technology allows us to communicate with both parents and with school personnel. I know you guys have been involved in that process in the last 5 years, particularly in a lot of the upgrades with upgrading your parent app and doing a lot of things with allowing access to your schools with data. Talk about that some and what you guys went through to do that, and then how that may have helped your safety so far.
Yeah, absolutely. So we about 3.5 years ago we decided we actually awarded a smart bus grant from the state. So we were able to equip all the buses with new tablets, the latest and greatest at the time. Real-time tracking for the parents. We had an app before, but as you state, as time goes on, technology is ever changing. So parents want that real time. They want to know where that bus is. They want to know where their student is from the time we pick them up to the time we drop them off. And they have that ability now.
So Brian, will stop you there. And did you have issues when you implemented your app for your parents? What do you have calls about things not working? And how did you go about solving some of those issues?
When we switched to the current software we have now, the parents were used to the app. The biggest thing for us was getting the parents, the transition over the summer was, okay, we're moving away from this app and we're going to this one. And I think that was our biggest hurdle, was getting parents set up and just the ease of using it. As far as how the app came online and the functionality of it, everything worked well. Biggest part was teaching the parents how to use it. And our vendor provided great tutorial videos for parents. They just, a lot of it's just notification settings, how parents, it's a more robust app than what we had before, and parents weren't used to that, all the capabilities that were now available to them.
Yeah, I know that, when you roll those things out, having a way to get all those folks enrolled and have access to the app was a huge challenge. And I know that again, as technology improves, BusPlanner's app, the Chipmunk, is tied to an email address. So the email address that's in the student information system is the one that actually works in the app. And once a parent sets up their email address in the app, it will pull that data, match it from the student information system, and then automatically populate the students into the app. So I know it's been some time ago we were using a different app, and and we had to go and load those parents. Well, the parents were loading, but then they were keying in the wrong information. They had to key in 3 or 4 or 5 pieces of information, and all those had to be correct. If they weren't correct, we had to go. We got an error message on it. We had to go back and try to fix that. So it was fairly labor intensive to get them set up. And once they got set up, it worked really well. But I think one of the things that BusPlanner has done and is doing is trying to remove some of those obstacles for parents to actually get on the app. And the only way you really have access to it is if the school has you listed in their student information system as a person who has access to that student data. So that's been something that I think would be an improvement. And of course, now the app obviously provides, focusing on safety. The app's going to provide the location, and parents are going to know when that bus stops and picks up the student and that kind of thing. We've got on this slide, of course, about manual student tracking. And some districts like to use the automated student tracking. Some parents actually use their own smartphones to track their students, because that's something that is available on smartphones now. You can do it on my Apple phone. You can track somebody else's phone using your phone if you want to do that. So I know that you've kind of decided maybe to not quite take that step yet because you focused on other things. Talk about the decision making you made going through whether or not to try to add those features and where you guys landed.
Yeah, so with our decision was really a district decision as a whole. There are certainly benefits to the ridership tracking. We did pilot it for, well, I say pilot, we implemented it for 2 years with our special needs population, and it worked well. We have, after COVID, we consolidated so many stops and routes and double runs. With ridership tracking, there's different ways you could do it, of course. One option we were looking at were cards. Everybody gets a key fob or card, HID badge. The kids scan on the bus. Well, we all know students are going to lose these badges, right? They're going to need to be replaced. You have new students coming. You have new situations moving from one house to the other. So we decided that, that's for our department, with our staff being on buses most of the day, due to absences or a shortage, adding that component of the card management was not something that we wanted to get on board with. Ideally, we initially spoke with child nutrition. We were a little late on that deal because they had already signed. If we could partner with child nutrition, and if the schools were going to HID badges, that would be something that we could all partner together and do. But our district's just not to that. The way our building setups are, that's not a direction they're wanting to move in at this time. It's not a definite no for the future, but it's a not right now type situation. From a transportation standpoint, knowing who's on those buses and to get actual counts, that information is priceless, especially for efficiency reasons. So but there's a lot more to it than just tracking the students. There's a whole another side on the backside of that card management and just that whole system management type thing. So,
well, I think Brian, that once you do things like this, particularly if they work well, you can't take them away.
Exactly.
It's just one of those things that parents, and I think people are using the parent app right now without specific student tracking, would tell you that so long as the app works, the parents love it, and they don't want to take that away. There are times when the app doesn't work for whatever reason, and I'm not sure it's really specific to the app. I think it's probably specific to the data quality that comes from the routing system into the app. You can have really bad data going in, and it doesn't match up with what's being reported on the app. So those two things are off, and parents will then think, okay, well, it doesn't work. Well, no, you really have to get, and I know I've said this probably in every single webinar we've done, but this is so critical. Your data quality has to be right. It has to be good. And I know you'll never be 100%, but you got to focus on data quality so that whoever's looking at the data, whether it be your administrators at the school or whether it be your parents at home, they want to know and they want that stuff to align together as closely as possible. And so please pay attention to that. If you got to get that right before you can do some of these other things, because if you try to implement some of these more detailed IT improvements or technological enhancements, then you got to have that data piece that feeds into that to make it all work. And I think that's just really critical. And I heard you say about card management too. You know, I think going back to your story about getting the other departments involved, if you've got someone else to manage the cards, if the schools do it, or if someone in central office does it, and your readers on the bus are capable of reading whatever devices are in the cafeteria or in the schools, in the media centers, or wherever else they're at, then obviously that pairs together pretty well, and you're out of the card management or the device management business when it comes to issuing those. So I think that's a big deal. I do like student tracking, but I think those are considerations you have to think about when you're going through that. Now, does it enhance when it works the safety of students? I think it's great. I think knowing where kids are all the time is very comforting for parents, and it's something that's great to do. But it does come at a cost, both from a financial perspective and from a manpower, woman power perspective. You got to have the resources to do it. And to keep up with it. You can implement it, but keeping up with it requires that resource. So let's move over, Brian, to driver training and behavioral challenges that affect safety. I know you all down in Union you've hired some people down there to help out with this, and you're fortunate because smaller districts sometimes don't have this luxury. You're a medium-sized district, I'd say, and then of course larger districts hopefully have access to those resources as well. Talk about what you all have done with your driver training and those folks you've hired and what they do and how that helps you all.
Yeah, absolutely. We are very fortunate. We have two safety officers. We have a full-time safety officer and a part-time safety officer. Their duties are divided. They both focus on safety. I have the part-time safety officer is retired Highway Patrol First Sergeant. He has extensive experience working collision scenes. He's invaluable to us. We've streamlined anyone who's watching from North Carolina knows that, or I guess across the country really, anytime a bus is involved in an accident, that is a very detail oriented process when it comes to the paperwork that is involved after that.
It's not, it should be, right?
It should, exactly. I mean, that you should be able to, the information you gather on that scene needs to be exactly what happens because, anytime there's a bus accident, someone says they're hurt afterwards, has the potential to really, spiral out of control if your information is not correct. So our safety officer who's part-time, he has relationship with law enforcement. If I go to an accident scene, they want to know where he's at. If he's tied up or if he's out that day, he has that rapport with them. He knows what they need, and they know that he's going to get them what they need. And drivers are used to him. If he comes in and he trains them, he's able to train them. Okay, when an accident happens, this is what you are to do, and they know that's what his expectation is as well as our expectations. They know what they should do in the event of an accident. Our full-time safety officer, we were fortunate enough to snag her from. She actually used to work for School Bus and Traffic Safety here in North Carolina. She was a school bus trainer through DMV. She also worked for Federal Motor Carrier and CDL Compliance Division. So she really preps all of our new hires who are coming in to take our bus class. We hire on folks. We do paid training here. We hire them in as a bus driver trainee. The DMV, of course, everybody has to go through the DMV class with the school bus traffic safety, but that's a 3 to 4 day class, and then testing. We don't want anybody driving a bus. We want quality bus drivers. The more training they have up front before they get in that seat, the safer they're going to be. So before they once they complete the classwork, they spend their 2-week time with their commercial learner permit practicing with that full-time safety officer, and she's also done some train the trainer sessions. I've got a couple drivers that she's trained to work with new folks. So once she feels comfortable enough to send them out with those bus drivers, she's able to, we get them ready for DMV, and DMV's found it's very successful. The ones that work with her now versus the ones, prior to her being hired on, the pass rate's certainly gone up.
Well, that's interesting, and I think for the majority of people out there, one way to have access to people like this is if you hire them as a bus driver, which one of these folks came in as a bus driver, I believe,
She did.
and then transitioned over to being that full time safety officer. And I think you may have used her as a part time person for safety as well until your position freed up where you could hire her full
We did.
time. But I think if you can access resources like that, I can only imagine that using your highway patrol guy, the first sergeant, to go out and review bus stops gives you instant credibility with your parents. When you're complaining about where a bus stop is, and hey, look, I've got a 30-year veteran from the highway patrol that investigates accidents all the time. He's gone out and looked at this bus stop, and he believes it's a safe bus stop. That's got to carry some weight with parents by him doing that.
It absolutely does, and he tells them he's very straightforward, very honest with them, and I trust his based on both of their histories. I trust their judgment. I'm not an expert in everything. We have to trust our staffs, and with even with the post accident training, both of them will work anytime we have an accident. They'll work with the driver, whether they were at fault or not at fault, what they could have done to prevent it, that type thing. That training has shown, we put these processes in place, and our accident numbers have dropped.
Well, and I think maybe cameras are on the agenda for later on, but I know that the cameras have AI with them now, and you're likely able to get some feedback from the software on the behaviors drivers are exhibiting, whether they're wearing their seatbelt, whether they're not paying attention. And I wouldn't say that that's 100% accurate necessarily, but it surely gives you a picture of how well that driver's performing, and it allows you the ability to go in and kind of show the driver, what you saw. And instead of you being kind of the bad guy, you're able to use that video to sort of help coach them.
If she sees that it triggers a no seatbelt, but the seatbelt maybe blends in with the color of the driver's shirt, she can dismiss that, and we dismiss it out of the way and we move on. But what we found with those is the best use for us is if a driver has had an accident, we've begun moving those cameras to that bus if it's not equipped with one. That way she can check in, and any speeding, any rolling through stop signs, we can kind of catch that as it happens versus waiting until something more serious happens. Does that make sense? It's just part of our post accident process now. Is you have an at fault accident, we deal with it through the disciplinary measure, but part of this is you're getting a live stream camera, and we're trying to make you as safe as a driver as possible.
So I think the message there too is that these are portable from one bus to another.
Absolutely.
The install on them is not like a permanent install. You can put them in a bus, and so if you need to put it in a bus with a driver because you're getting calls from the public or parents about things being unsafe on their bus, or they've observed traffic, rolling stop signs, whatever, then you could move that around to different buses, and that way you don't have the expense of having more than a few cameras per fleet that you use, but you can get the benefit out of them to be able to monitor and maybe coach with that driver to improve that behavior.
Exactly, and we're talking maybe you could pull one off in 5 minutes at most. Just
Wow.
double-sided tape and a wire connector to the GPS box. So it's very simple to move. If a spare is going out for over a week and we need a camera on the bus, we'll have our technology coordinator go out and switch it. It's really that simple.
That's fantastic.
It's good stuff. And Scott, you mentioned something we didn't talk about. Drivers need less distractions. Well, if we have a bus that's having serious behavior issues, we have schools that request that live feed ability, because not only us, but we can grant access to the schools to where they can get on and view that bus as it's happening. And then the school gets on over the radio and says, hey, you guys got to sit down. And those kids know, hey, my administrator's watching me.
I venture a guess that nearly every district across the country has at least a few buses that are severe challenges when it comes to behavior.
Yep.
Some maybe more than others, and some of it may be driver specific because the driver on the bus is not really as good at managing discipline, and or it could be just the students are from a very a difficult situation, and so you need some additional help that way. And again, to be able to get a few cameras versus having to outfit your entire fleet, you can probably afford to do that when you can move them around. So it makes that a really, really powerful solution because we didn't specifically say it, but obviously discipline for students is a major safety issue. That distracts the driver probably as much or more than anything else the driver does during their driving the bus is when they have unruly students, they're taking the eyes off the road. So to improve safety, I mean, using the technology that's there, that I can't think of a better thing to do than be able to help out with that discipline piece.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's the drivers, they know that with us using that way, it's really for them. I mean, it's all for them. We want to be able to provide them everything they need to do their job more efficiently in a safer manner.
So it's not a gotcha. It's this is on there for you and to help you. And I don't want you to look at it as we're trying to catch you doing something wrong. We're obviously going to let you know if you did something right too, and it's there to support you, not to somehow catch you doing something. I know a lot of drivers have that kind of fear that they're a little worried about people looking over their shoulder and watching what they're doing. But you have to approach it from that perspective of trying to be helpful.
Exactly.
So I'm going to pause here, just say that the things we've talked about thus far, BusPlanner is a very robust system. It's not just school bus routing. A lot of these things can be saved within BusPlanner for later disposal. So, for example, if you've got a counseling with an employee and you need to save that to the employee record, then you can actually do that in BusPlanner so that you'll have all of their any kind of disciplinary action you've had on that driver, any kind of warning you've written, those kind of things can be saved to that driver. Similarly, if you have a defect on a bus and you found defects on buses, you can obviously save that information to that bus. That's important when we talked about accident investigation a little while ago.
Mm-hmm.
Everything you document in that accident can be rolled into BusPlanner under that bus. And that way, if you ever need it in the future, you can always go back to that. I've seen times when litigation took 5 years and you needed to go back and look back 5 years, and we were digging through boxes in the attic trying to find, the 5-year records out of that. And a lot of times you'll know if you're going to not put it in a box, you're going to have it somewhere where you can get to it if you have a really bad accident. That it's likely to result in litigation. But my point here is you don't have to go digging through a box to find it or a drawer to find it. It will actually be inside BusPlanner. And I think that's where some of the power of BusPlanner is it really enhances the storage of information and the communication that you have, with your parents and your students and your schools. And so let's go to the final bullet on this page about aging fleets, because I know that there's technology out there now that can help out with sending codes for things that are wrong with buses and educating the mechanic. And I know you guys have a pre-trip form that you use that allows you to be able to communicate better with your drivers and your mechanics. And I think they have to certify that the bus is safe to drive too, which is another safety-related technology issue. Certifying that thing live every day that you've done the pre-trip and that kind of thing is a big deal. Talk about that, about how you guys stumbled onto that and how it's been working for you.
Yeah, absolutely. So our GPS provider, they have what we call driver vehicle inspection reports, DVIRs. So prior to, I'm going to say probably up to 8 years ago, we used to do back 8 years ago, we would do pre and post trips on paper. We'd make a book bound with pre and post trip. Drivers had to go in, fill it out manually. Fast forward, our last provider, we were able to put it on the tablet, but the driver had to go through and check each individual box. It was about 11 pages worth of things, everything that you got to check on a pre-trip. And it was very time consuming.
So they were checking things that were not defects.
Exactly.
certify
They
they
had
were
to check
okay.
everything that was okay.
Wow, that was time
Everything with it.
consuming.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
That was time consuming, I'm sure, to do it
Oh,
that way.
absolutely, absolutely. So, one thing about that is when the report was sent at around 10 o'clock every morning, 10:30. Well, the mechanics are waiting on that defect report so they can fix things. Fast forward to our new vendor, the technology has really evolved to where driver goes in, they certify they've done their pre and post trip inspection. They can put any defects in. As soon as they submit, if there's any defects, it goes directly to, we have alerts sent up. It goes to our fleet manager, quality assurance supervisor, and the mechanic assigned to that bus. It doesn't go anywhere until the mechanic clears it out. Mechanic has to log in. Once they've either repaired the bus, ordered parts, or inspected to make sure it's okay, they have to go in and clear that out, and that keeps record of them physically checking that bus, and it lets us know, hey, this was repaired, or hey, we're waiting on parts, but the bus can be driven, or no, the bus is being taken out of service, and all that's electronically kept, and more importantly, the driver can see that when they log in, they see whether it's been resolved or not. They don't have to write it up every day; it stays there for that bus. Whoever logs in and does a pre-trip on that bus sees the list of defects that have been reported or are still pending and what the status is. So that's, and the turnaround time, the mechanics love it. They know immediately. There's no more waiting on the whole fleet to get in and park before that's done. It's instantaneous. And if the bus is fine, they don't get anything. They're not getting unnecessary notifications.
Now, Brian, are you doing any reporting to show which defects have not been resolved by a mechanic, so you can do
Yes.
follow-up work with that mechanic as well?
Yep, we do. Our fleet manager and our quality assurance supervisors, they log in weekly at the end of the week to make sure that there's nothing outstanding, that if a mechanic was out or if just to make sure nobody missed anything or skipped over it. So that's done weekly. That way all of that is kept up to date.
I can only imagine the bus drivers appreciate the communication of knowing when something's been fixed and when it hasn't been fixed. In my days, when I was transportation director, I could not count the number of times drivers would swing by my office and say, "Hey, I've turned this thing in 5 times and I it's not fixed yet." And there was no communication back with them when it was fixed. And so that's one of those things where I think that app has a huge impact on the way mechanics can communicate back and forth with those drivers.
Absolutely does. And there's a messaging capability where if they want to message the driver, they have, the app is on our tablets, but there's also a driver app that the drivers can download if they choose to do so on their personal phone. So they're able to message if they need something. They know all defects have to go on the DVR, but that communications is a great additional piece to have.
Brian, what percentage of your drivers would you say actually downloaded that app on their personal phones? I'm just curious.
I'm going to say probably 85 to 90%.
Wow.
Yeah,
So they see it as being something that they really use day to day, and they can carry it right in their hand and do
Yep.
all the pre-trip and post-trip inspection right as they go along. So they see the value in it, and they voluntarily downloaded it to their own personal phones.
They did, and the feedback I've gathered from our drivers is they like, and our mechanics like it too. Our tablets on the bus, of course, we keep those locked down because it's hard to secure a bus overnight and on weekends. So we don't want we don't want the tablets to become missing. But with the app on their phones, they're able to take pictures of things and upload it to defects. So if there's a seat that's got a rip or a light's out, and maybe they don't know how to word the location of the clearance light, they can just snap a picture and say, "Hey, light's out," and gives the mechanic a reference on what they need to do. So they do
Wow.
like that feature of it as well.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. Farzan, I think we beat the first one to death, pal. You want to move on to the next one? So yeah, with GPS tracking, as we talked about earlier, GPS has really, really just come a long way. Since I can remember the first GPS we used and how we thought it was wonderful, but how limited it really was in the data it could provide. And I think now, it provides so much more information. The speeding checks, the location during accidents, which we talked about a little while ago. You can actually get real-time traffic information through some GPS connections. Of course, it increases the visibility of parents, and we're leveraging those technology to enhance student safety. Particularly, I know a lot of folks with the sex offenders, they try to put bus stops in places where sex offenders are not living, and that's a little bit. We'll talk about it a little bit, Brian. That's a little bit of a debate. Of these things, which ones are you using the most of and getting the most value out of?
So we definitely we use really all of them, with the exception of the last one. And there is some debate on that topic of sex offenders. Um, our particular district with sex offenders, when we went through and consolidated stops 4 years ago, and we were forced to do things that were out of the norm with the shortage that we had, and to just change the way we operate. Um, we've put a lot of accountability back on our parents, to get their kids to and from the bus stop safely.
Yes.
And Scott, from doing, you've been in school transportation for years. If you put a policy in place, it's got to apply to everyone, right? So you can't say, what we found, we can't say, okay, we're not setting any bus stops up by a sex offender's house. Well, then we have a sex offender who's got a child, whose child rides the bus.
Mm-hmm.
So then what? Then what do you do? Do you single that child out and drop them, how X amount of ways, and then also sex offenders, not all of them report where they're at,
Or they may move.
or they may move. And so, as you talked about technology earlier, once you give stuff to someone, you can't take it away. It's the same way with really bus stop accommodations. So if I give you an accommodation for a stop because of this reason, and that reason goes away, you're going to expect to leave that stop there. So over time, that would get messy. So we explain to parents that it is, ultimately it is their responsibility to get their child to and from a bus stop. So.
Yeah, I know the state association in North Carolina issued a position paper on that very topic, and I think that maybe helped some, along with the fact that obviously it was during the pandemic when a lot of changes were made, and so you can kind of blame some of this stuff on the pandemic, really. That you had to do certain things, and it wasn't really just blaming the pandemic because you wanted to; it's because you had to. I mean. Yeah. The situations you were in were real. The driver reduction was real, and you had to do things that would allow you to get kids to school. And that stop consolidation was a major part of that. I know a lot of people had to go through that. I do sympathize with folks that bring this registered sex offender thing up, but I think just from a perspective of a parental accountability, we should hold them accountable for their kids, and getting them to and from the bus stop. And I'll say this: I had to when I was a parent. I never asked for an accommodation of my child walking down to the bus stop, and we had to escort our children down there. Me and my wife, we had to one of us had to do it. We just felt an obligation to do that. And if we didn't do it, a neighbor did it for us. But I mean, we wanted to make sure that we didn't ask unreasonable things of the school district. I just was born and raised that way. My mama would never call transportation and ask for, to move a bus stop somewhere. I mean, the bus stop's down there, boy, go get on it. That's just kind of how. Now I'm old. I get it. I'm old, and I know times have changed.
I didn't say it.
I know you didn't have to. You didn't have to say it. But yeah, with a lot of these, a lot of this tracking technology, I think it really has improved the ability for the parent to know where that bus is. I mean, now you get notification through the app that the bus is close by. So if you're going to go down to that bus stop, which we strongly encourage parents to do, no matter what age the kid is, then when that bus is going to arrive, and you're not inconvenience standing out in the cold weather in the rain. You can walk down there when the bus is getting close by. You can watch your kid get off the bus and walk with them back to the house. And I think that in and of itself, that improves the safety because parents are going down there and getting their kid. But it also improves the safety because they know when the bus is going to be there and their kid's not unattended while they're, while they're going down there. They didn't, overslept, whatever. Hopefully the app's loud enough where it dings, it wakes them up, they're asleep, right? But anyhow, I do think that again, technology has changed so much that these tools are available, and it does improve the safety of our students.
Yeah.
Farzan, you want to move on to the next one, pal? So we're going to do a little poll. How often do you review or adjust your bus routes with safety as a priority? And I think we're going to do some things behind the scene here and get your feedback on that. How often do you review or adjust your bus routes with safety as a priority? Wow, it looks like a lot of people are, well, at least one has said, occasionally.
We're probably in that group where I'm at occasionally,
Yeah.
a few times a year. I mean, you don't want to go through and do too many changes. That's our.
Well, and Brian, you brought up a good point earlier about when you make a stop, not only do parents expect that stop to remain there forever, but they also talk to each other too.
They do.
They'll go out and parents will notoriously talk to each other. Well, all you got to do is call transportation; they'll change it.
Exactly.
And that's not always the case, right? I mean, particularly when you've got your process down pat and you use your safety officer to go out and review it when they call in and complain about it. I like that process piece, and we're going to go out and look at every one of them, right? We're going to look at them if somebody calls and complains about them, but it doesn't mean we're going to change them, right? It doesn't mean we're going to change them at all. So,
exactly, and that's what we tell our parents. That stop may have been there 5 years, but if you need us to look at it, we're going to go out just to make sure nothing's changed since the last time we looked at it. No guarantee we're going to change it, but we're definitely going to lay eyes on it and make sure that none of the criteria has changed.
Yeah. Farzan, you want to move on to the next slide, pal? So student tracking, we have talked about this one quite a bit. There obviously are mobile apps, and BusPlanner has Chipmunk, which you see on the screen here. It does provide apps. It does provide alerts for parents. It provides two-way communication with drivers, particularly when they have tablets on buses. And it does allow for student scans. And that student scan information will come through as a date, time stamp, and location stamp of where that kid got on and off the bus. And again, if that's something that you're interested in, then certainly BusPlanner can help accommodate that. If you want to go part of the way, not all the way, just go with the app and let the app be sending out the notifications to parents and providing them with notifications on where the bus is and that sort of thing, then you can do that as well. So either way, it's certainly an improvement over what has been out there in the past. All right, move on to the next slide there, Farzan. So fleet maintenance. Brian, we talked about fleet maintenance some, and particularly bus inspections. Have you seen mechanics? How'd your mechanics take to using the new technology? I mean, anytime you roll technology out, there's going to be a challenge in getting people to get on board with it and start using it. How did you guys convince your mechanics that it was the right way to go and kind of get them on board with it?
So they were used to looking at a spreadsheet. I think the habit of actually going in and clearing it has been the struggle. It's not that they're not fixing it originally. They've always been open to getting the notification, seeing. But, by the time they do the work, going in and actually clearing it was our biggest struggle. And that other than that, they've caught on. We got a great group of guys here, and they're, not all of them are tech savvy, but it's easy enough. I mean, anybody can learn anything, right? So they've come around a lot.
Well, I think that goes back, Brian, to talking about how user-friendly a lot of the technology has become.
It has been. It has definitely changed.
I mean, with the changes that have happened, I think the usability of these apps and these programs have become really intuitive in a lot of ways, and you don't really need a whole lot of training to be able to jump on and use these tools, which is a great thing, because a lot of older folks, and I'll put myself in that category, are not as tech savvy, and and so they need things that are relatively easy to operate. And I'd say a lot of this stuff is on a fifth grade level. You can do a lot of these things if you're a fifth grader. In fact, we see a lot of students download the app themselves. A lot of kids now have cell phones, not maybe quite as many in elementary school, but surely middle and high school, and they can download these apps and find out when the bus is coming themselves. So I mean
Absolutely.
that's one of the ways to be able to help that kid out. Not standing out in the cold and the rain. They know where the bus is and they see it's coming and on the app and so that not waiting out there with potentially folks driving by and they're just walking to the bus stop and getting on pretty much. So I do think that that's really become part of the win out of using technology is it's so user friendly now. We talked about the video, so we talked about our stuff up front, Brian, and that's okay because a lot of these things we mentioned about the interior cameras and dash cams and that kind of thing and how important they can be and just really encourage that you guys are using those and that they are movable from one location to another and that you can share the feedback with drivers. That's just tremendous, I think, in developing drivers and basically not being an adversary with them, but being a coach with them, which I think is a big difference.
But anybody, Scott, I tell people, anybody who's got the opportunity to try one or two of those, I think if people were to try it on one or two vehicles, they'd end up buying more.
Yeah, yeah, I agree with you. Farzan, let's move on to we're getting down close on time. So there's another question: to what extent does your district use technology discussed today to boost student safety? And I would just say that I really like what BusPlanner offers because they offer so many different applications that you can fit basically any of those applications in or all of them. You don't have to use them all. If you're looking for a certain thing, then certainly BusPlanner can offer that. And if you, that's one of the things BusPlanner has done in response to our customers, really, and that is that customers have been asking us, can you provide a one choke point? I want one neck to choke when something goes wrong. Okay, I'll just say it like it is. I think a lot of districts use a piece of software over here to do this and a piece of software over there to do that, and field trips over here and GPS over there, and BusPlanner has basically rolled out a platform that has it all in one place. So you only call BusPlanner when you have a problem, and we're not going to be blaming another vendor for what's going on. We're going to solve that problem with you and for you. And I think that's one of the biggest things that BusPlanner can offer. With that, I think we'll move on. So yeah, when you're going to involve safety measures, we've kind of touched on some of these as well. Trying to get your stakeholders involved, and look, that includes your school board, it includes your principals, it includes your parents, it includes your teachers in a lot of cases, your staff. To really get out there in front of them and running that pilot program can be a real big benefit too. Picking those locations where you have people that are energetic about wanting to make changes and energetic about the technology itself and can see the benefit and will be champions for you is a really big deal. Brian, I know you guys, when you implemented, you had a lot of people jump on board, but in particular a few that were very excited about it, and that was part of the success you've enjoyed.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we even got our chief technology officer involved. I mean, that's a piece that people tend to forget when implementation happens. But with all the data breaches that are going on here and there with things, you really got to get your technology folks involved. I mean, because there is a level of this that they've got to grant access to certain things. And I mean, our school board was on board with it. I mean, they're very tech, we're very tech friendly here in this district. So anything to make us better prepared, they're on board with. And then they know that our goal is always to improve student safety and improve our efficiency. So
I think you even had a couple of board members with students that were testing some of
we
the
actually
apps.
did. Yeah, we did. We were able to, we said, hey, we want to pilot this. If you'll download this app, we'll give you access to track your student's bus and let us know what you think.
What a way to get them on board and be a champion for what transportation is doing.
Yep. And they were able to.
if you get a win like that, where you get them on board, and the next time you go in front of them needing something, and they've seen the good work that transportation has already done with technology, they're 100 times more likely to support it. All right, Farzan, we're running short on time, so let's move on down the line here. It goes without saying, technology cannot replace human care, but it can empower and it can make a difference. And using technology will provide peace of mind, particularly for parents and for teachers and folks at the schools as well. And just remember, we are doing this for the children and for the future of our country, really, is how this plays out. So at this point, we'll wrap up. And I'd just like to thank Brian for his time. And it's easy to see why he's so successful at his work. He's very, very mastered a lot of things. And I think their district's doing a lot of very positive stuff down there to make student transportation safe and using technology to do that. I also want to thank our BusPlanner customers that have tuned in. If you're not a customer of ours, then we'd love to have an opportunity to talk with you about what we could do to help your organization. And you can just reach out to us, and we'd love to hear from you about that. So with that, thank you all for attending. Brian, again, thank you, and I hope everybody has a wonderful afternoon.